Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Greetings from my Buffalo hotel room. I'm actually up here to cover Penguins and Sabres tonight. Excited for that. We'll head over to Morning Skate in a little, but I have some stuff I want to talk about. We spent a lot of time this week talking about contracts, contract status. Mike Tomlin, chief among that discussion. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Tristan Jarry being waived, sent to the AHL. Is his contract the worst in Pittsburgh sports? I don't know. We're going to wade through a lot of that. We'll do it together. Also want to get into some NFL divisional round preview stuff for this weekend's slate of games. Hopefully it's better than the last one. Before we do any of that, though, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, so let's talk about contracts, and let's talk about bad contracts. It seems like that's something that's kind of going around here. Mike Tomlin, some details have emerged about that thanks to our Jerry Dulac, that he makes basically $16 million a year, total value of 3-year contract around $50 million. Is that the worst contract in Pittsburgh sports? I have a hard time saying it's not. I'll be honest. And why I think that, it's the value, what you're paying that coach relative to his peers, what you're not getting, more in this case, what you hope to get, and how it's sort of fallen short of expectations and just impact on an overall organization. It's right up there. Would I have a challenger? Yeah, there's a few. And I think Tristan Jarry's is very high up there. I mean, right now we're talking about somebody, $5.4 million, a 5-year deal, 3 more years left on the deal, and he's in the AHL. If we look at how much he's impacting the team, disappointment, performance relative to peers, performance relative to his own performance, it's pretty high up there. I'm pretty comfortable putting that in the top 3. So what else? What else? And pardon my looking down at my notes. I had some stuff written down on this from time to time, but Erik Karlsson, he's up there for me too. And this is a special one, though, because the Penguins didn't do this. This was a contract they inherited. Now, they said they were okay inheriting it, even for $10 million, which is a discount over his $11.5 million contract. I don't think the Penguins have got requisite value on the Karlsson deal. And his arrival here has coincided with some not great teams, some not great habits. I'm certainly not blaming it all on Erik Karlsson, but you're allocating $10 million of your salary cap in an $88 million salary cap league. That's a lot of money. You expect a lot of performance. And at best, you're getting a player who can drive play 5-on-5 from the offensive end. He's a deficient defenseman and has always been one. And that's kind of okay. I just don't want to spend $10 million for it. So that's why that's very high up there for me. Some others that have been discussed, I don't know. They're not great. Like, I'm going to go to baseball now for that reason. Brian Hayes, Mitch Keller, they're 2 contracts that get talked about a lot. Are they terrible? I don't know. Brian Hayes, 8 years, $70 million. In 2023, people weren't exactly talking about how wretched this contract was. It looked good based on his final 2 months. Now, I'm not going to ignore the injury history. If he has a chronically bad back, which he might, I hope he doesn't. I hope he can figure it out. But I mean, that's an honest assessment of it. If his back is screwed up to the point where he can't contribute, yeah, that's a bad contract. But if he's a Gold Glove winning third baseman who hits, I don't know, 260, 270, 280, something like that, I mean, you're going to have a WAR at least respectable enough to justify the contract based on defense. I realize that a corner infield position, you might want a little bit more. I just think we need a little bit more time on the Hayes contract. I agree that it doesn't look great now, but relatively speaking, if you look at, a Gold Glove caliber third baseman who can hit even a little bit around Major League Baseball, 8 years, $70 million. I mean, it's a lot of money in Pirates terms, but not necessarily in Major League Baseball terms. It's the same sort of feeling for Mitch Keller, and he's at 5 years, $77 million total. If you look at the going rate for a starting pitcher, I know you can look at it here and say, oh, well, Keller, he's behind Skeens, he's behind Jones, he might be behind Bubba Chandler. That's all fair. But if you look at what he's done over the past 3, I was intrigued by this. 92 games started, 4.13 ERA, 392 FIP, 8.7 strikeouts per 9. He's 14th in innings pitched in that time. I mean, that costs money. that costs money for starting pitching. And we can debate how much the Pirates spend, writ large, but that's not an abhorrent contract for somebody who is 14th in innings pitched and has a 4.3 ERA and is still relatively young. And I know there's more money coming on the back end of that contract. Certainly, I just don't think it's that bad. All right, so what are some other ones? One that's sneaky bad, Ryan Graves, 6 years, $27 million. There's 4 more years left on it. Now, it's obviously not a surprise to anybody watching this. You're well aware of what the Penguins have done with Ryan Graves and healthy scratching him a bunch, and it hasn't worked out. But it's just not at the value of Tristan Jarry. Maybe it's salvageable, certainly not at the value of an Erik Karlsson, but it deserves to be pretty high up there. Mike Sullivan's contract. I've heard that one debated a little bit. Sullivan is the highest paid coach in the NHL, $5.5 million. That's a figure reported by Front Office Sports this past July. And right now, yeah, it doesn't look great. A couple points, though. Fenway Sports Group loves Sullivan. We know that. I'm not sure it's the value of the contract or the money value in the contract or something like that. I mean, yes, the Penguins have fallen short of expectations. Yes, you can make a case that they should move on from the head coach. You're also talking about 2 Stanley Cups, changing a whole bunch. Like, he's a valuable, and again, this isn't explaining away all of this and saying it's not a problem. Just saying that there has been value to paying Mike Sullivan. I don't think it's worse than Mike Tomlin at this point. I don't think it's worse than Tristan Jarry, Erik Karlsson, that sort of thing. Certainly deserves to be on a list, and we can talk about it, though. Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's another one I've heard, 4 years, $74 million. Doesn't look great now, and the Steelers still theoretically could maybe try to get out from under it, sell the fact that he was a Pro Bowler, sell the fact that not long ago he was a very good at producing splash, that sort of thing. But right now I'm not paying $22.4 million, and you can make the case that for what they're asking Minkah to do, he's probably overpaid. I just think he's misused. And I think that could probably change if they get a new defensive coordinator and a new scheme as well. So I'd probably look at a little bit of patience there. Patrick Queen, same deal. First year of the deal, I don't love it. I mean, he certainly looks overpaid, 3 years, $41 million. But I'm going to give this a little bit of time. That's why it's a little bit lower on my list. Not going to freak out too much. All right, so I'm going to take a short break, and then we'll be back for a little divisional round talk. Here's a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Welcome back to First 10. We're here middle of the morning, Monday through Friday. Thanks so much for finding us. Let's talk a little divisional round football. I'm excited for this. I think there's some pretty good games this weekend. We're going to start with Texans and Chiefs on Today's Friday. On Saturday at 4:30, these teams last met in Week 16. It was a pretty breezy Kansas City win. Should we expect any different? I don't. The Chiefs are going to get back Chris Jones, their defensive tackle. That's going to make a difference. I've been really impressed with how the Chiefs have evolved at wide receiver this season. I think early on that was a bit of a question mark. If you want to put some Steelers applicability to this, adding DeAndre Hopkins at the deadline, getting Hollywood Brown back. It's been very good. Xavier Worthy has been excellent for them. I'm just not betting against Patrick Mahomes. I can't. I read this stat this week, and it jumped off the page to me as Kansas City's starter. Mahomes has never not reached the AFC Championship game. I'm not sure I'm picking the Texans as the team that he's ultimately going to stub his toe against. Texans do a very good pass rush, though. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, 2 guys to account for. They did a pretty good job against Josh Allen and the Bills in Week 5. Was impressed by that. 131 passing yards on 9 of 30 throwing. For Josh Allen, I just don't see it happening again this time around. All right, second game, Commanders at Lions on Saturday at 8. I think this one could be sneaky good because of Jaden Daniels. It's also an interesting stylistic clash. Detroit likes to play aggressive man-to-man coverage. They also like the blitz. Jaden Daniels has been good in that scenario, obviously can run a lot. He's fared well against the blitz too, and that's part of it. I read this week a 90.3 quarterback rating against the blitz, third best in the NFL. Might be a stat that really matters. Detroit's going to get back David Montgomery to pair its usual backfield tandem, Jahmyr Gibbs. So watch that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That one kind of hits home for me a little bit. I was interning in D.C. the last time the Redskins or the Commanders, Washington's football franchise, whatever you want to call it, won a playoff game back in 2006, I believe it was 2005 into 2006. It was my winter break intern at a TV station down there, and it was just so electric being around that stuff. Rams at Eagles. Can the Rams continue some of what they've done the second half of the season? Go against, obviously, a very tough Eagles team. These teams met earlier this season. This was, I believe, week 12. The Eagles 37-20. Saquon Barkley had a huge game, but the Eagles have tightened down defensively since that, or the Rams have tightened down defensively since then. 104.1 rushing yards per game. Since then, pretty good. I like the Eagles' aggressive defense. I think we saw it with the Steelers and how they've done things. But I want to make one point, something I think the Steelers have not necessarily done as well. Look at the Rams' defensive line and how they've been able to build that. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. They're all first or second year players. They've been able to retool that on the fly by hitting in the draft. And the Steelers have allocated draft resources a little bit to their defensive line, but they just haven't done it enough. They haven't hit on enough guys, and it's something that I think it's going to be applicable this year in the draft too, where they're going to have to retool that offensive line. But I've liked what I've seen out of the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, he's 3-0 in home playoff games. Hasn't really, thrown for a ton of yards in those games, but he's been very good. And I think the Eagles probably take this one. Last game, it's the best one of the weekend, of course. Ravens at Bills. I still don't know who I'm taking in this. If I'm going to make a pick, probably the Bills. And I don't feel great about it just because of the matchup and how the Ravens have run the ball lately. It's been crazy. I read this stat. I think it's interesting. The Bills have gone with 5 or more defensive backs on the field more than 95% of the time. That's the most in the NFL. Tough matchup when you're facing Derrick Henry, is it not? I mean, are you going to stop one of the 2 best backs in the NFL with that many defensive backs? Or are you going to change your scheme? Whatever, it's probably a reason the Ravens ran for so many yards in their first meeting, 271. They had 299 last week against the Steelers. We all know that well. But I'm still taking the Bills. I think this is their year. Maybe it's because I'm in Buffalo. I don't know. If I don't take the Bills, who knows what happens. But I think Josh Allen's going to be able to lead them. It's 2 very high-scoring teams. Wouldn't be surprised if this one was also high-scoring. I know it will be exciting. I'm looking forward to watching all the games this weekend, as well as stopping by Pirates Fest at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center a couple times. Thanks so much for watching this, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of these videos and so much more from our Post-Gazette, North Shore Drive podcast and YouTube networks. Talk to you on Monday here on First 10.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.